March 4th, a call came in to the Wayne County Communications Center reporting two deceased females near a trailhead off of SR 12 here in Wayne County. Excuse me. Upon arriving at the trailhead, law enforcement located two husbands of the deceased females who had initially reported the incident to the dispatch center and confirmed that both females were deceased, and it appeared that it was apparent homicide. Officers found a vehicle in close proximity to the trailhead that appeared suspicious and did not belong to the two victims. As they investigated this vehicle, they responded to a nearby residence in nearby Lyman. Upon arriving at the residence in Lyman, officers discovered evidence that led them to the body of a third victim, an elderly female who was the registered owner of the vehicle that was located not near the trailhead. Investigators also discovered that a vehicle was missing from the trailhead that belonged to one of the victims. They immediately suspected that the suspect in the situation had stolen this vehicle and had used it in attempts to flee the area. Investigators utilized automated license plate readers and integrated vehicle tracking services to monitor the stolen vehicle's movements through southern Utah into northern Arizona and eventually into Colorado. The vehicle was successfully tracked to Pagosa Springs, Colorado, where a coordinated effort between multiple law enforcement agencies in that area led them to this vehicle, which was left abandoned. As a short, brief search of the area led them to the suspect, he was taken into custody without any further incident. The suspect has been identified as 22-year-old Ivan Miller of Blakesburg, Iowa, who is believed to have had no prior relationships with any of the victims and no prior connections with the area. The Utah Department of Public Safety will continue to work with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office and other police as we process both the crime scenes here in Utah and as we work to do a thorough investigation in this incident. We'd like to thank all the law enforcement agencies that were involved in this. Their help and support was vital to bring this to a quick resolution in locating the suspect. We'd like to thank the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, the Bureau of Land Management, the Pagosa Springs, Colorado Police Department, and the Archuleta, Sevier, and King County Sheriff's Offices. So we'd like to open up to any questions that you have.
Yeah, so these husbands, is there something that tipped them off, or were they just concerned that their wives hadn't come back?
Correct. It had not returned home, and so they located them and then notified dispatch.
Do you know about what the timeline was? What time they went out to go for the hike and what time husbands find them?
So what time they actually left, I don't have an exact time frame yet. I think they are still confirming any timelines as far as when they left to when they were discovered and called into dispatch. So as we get a better timeline of when that was, we'll let you know.
And can you confirm, were those victims, were they family members? Were they related?
So at this point in time, we don't have any connections as far as family relation between the two. We believe the two were friends that had gone out for a hike, and we don't have any connections between the two hikers and the elderly female victim.
So is there anything to lead you and investigators to believe this was a targeted attack on these specific women?
We have nothing to suggest that they were targeted specifically, and again, we have nothing to suggest that they had any prior relationship, and he has no connections to this area.
And do we know
What
why
do you think
Mr. Miller was in Utah?
I'm still looking into that to see ultimately what his movements were prior to the incident happening and what he was doing here in Utah.
What was the timeline from when did he go to the elderly woman's home first and then the hiking trail? Is that what you think happened?
We believe that the incident happened first at the registered owner's home, and then at the trailhead was second.
And then he took her car and drives over to the trailhead.
Correct.
Kills them and then takes their car.
And then their vehicle is taken from the trailhead.
And the woman is the 80-year-old at the home. the two friends are the 30 and 60-year-old?
Yes, so the ages that were given were age ranges, so those aren't specific ages. The registered owner of the vehicle was in her 80s, and the other two was in their 30s, and then I believe the other was in their 40s.
40s.
Do we know where the victims were from, or are we releasing any of that information?
We know that the victims were from the area from here in Utah, but we have not released their information quite yet.
I'm sure this is scary for this type of community. We saw a lot of stuff on social media talking about lock your doors, all those types of things. Schools were going to be closed.
Yeah, any type of incident like this is going to be very, very scary for, you have multiple victims, multiple scenes, anything like that, where law enforcement is responding to all of these things, and a suspect that is outstanding, people tend to be scared, and we understand that. And so that's why law enforcement takes these very serious, and we wanted to make sure to bring this to a quick, fast resolution.
It just seems like this spread out to a wide area, so much so you guys had to use the license plate scanners. So I mean, this is, everybody had to come out to this. You're usually in Salt Lake, you're down here.
Correct, but it was great coordination between multiple agencies that worked so well together to locate the suspect.
And can you confirm that second victim's age range one more time? Because I think the original press release said 60s, but did you just say 40s?
I could be mistaken on that
Okay.
one. I don't have that information in front of me. I believe you're correct. I believe
But
it
they
was
are
60s.
not related then, 30 and 60?
I have nothing to suggest they were related at this point.
Do we know any weapons, anything used? Do we know the way that they died?
We have not released anything as far as that goes yet.
And you say that this suspect, he's from Iowa. Do you know when he got to Utah, like what the connection is there? How he even got here?
We're still looking at that timeline of when he arrived here in Utah, what his involvement was here in Utah prior to the incident, and we don't have a complete tracking history of that yet.
Is there a criminal background that you're looking into?
We don't have much of a background from prior to this incident.
When police arrested Miller, did he have that weapon that was used on him?
That I don't have many details of the incident that took place in Colorado at this point. We are still working with them as he's still in their custody, and so we will work with them from here forward.
So will he eventually be brought back here?
That's what we're working on.
And the location of the first home to the trailhead, how far apart are these locations, I guess?
So the trailhead is off of SR 12 near Torrey, and then the residence was in Lyman, which is probably 10 to 15 miles apart.
And can you clarify, how did you come to know that these three murders were all connected? Was it the cars that really kind of sealed the deal?
The great work by the law enforcement agencies involved as they started to look into these things and notice these small connections, and following these connections together helped them to start putting those pieces together, specifically the vehicles.
Any other connections?
I think the biggest piece was those vehicles that led them to the registered owner, and then the second vehicle tracking their movements through Utah and then eventually into Colorado.
So we've talked about the timeline where you think it starts at the house, goes to the trailhead. When do you guys find out? Is it you find out with the husbands and then you realize, hey, this car belongs over here, and you find the other victim? Is that how that happened?
Correct. Yes, so the husbands reported through dispatch that they located the two females at the trailhead. Officers respond to the trailhead, talk to them. They also are the ones that help us to understand that vehicle is missing from the trailhead. They investigate that other vehicle that is suspicious at the trailhead, doesn't belong to either of those victims, and trace that to the registered owner's home residence in Lyman.
And do you have I know you said you don't really have a timeline, but do you have any time of like when those calls came in or when they were found deceased?
So the initial call came in at 4:30 yesterday afternoon, and I believe that is from the two husbands that located them on the trailhead. I believe that is the only call that I'm aware of.
We know obviously this is a small community. Can you tell us what this looks like for this kind of community moving forward? I mean, 3 homicides in 24 hours?
It's going to be something that definitely shakes the community for a little while, and we want, as law enforcement, want to help them get back to normal as much as we possibly can, but it's something that will definitely take them a little bit to recover from. I know that they've taken precautions, especially last night, knowing that there was an outstanding suspect. You'd have to speak to them specifically about what they did, but I believe some of the schools are closed, city offices are closed, things like that, just to make sure everybody stays safe.
Do you know if the suspect is connected to any other cases, any other murder cases in other states, in Iowa?
We are not aware of anything at this point, but again, still early on in the investigation, still have a lot of the history of that to look into.
Do you have any details on the route that he took to get from here to Pagosa Springs? That's quite a distance.
I don't have that exact route in front of me of the how they followed him using those methods, but that's something we can put out at a later time.
Did you say where the hikers reside, where they're from? Or-
They are here from the area, but I don't have their specific information with me now.
Okay. So Wayne County is,
Wayne County, whether they have ties to other parts in Utah, that I'm not sure either.
And again, I'm gonna ask, was there a time that, what was the amount of time elapsed where the husbands became concerned? Was it a matter of hours or?
I haven't confirmed the time frame from when they left for the hike to when they were discovered.
We understand that next of kin notifications are happening for family members. Do you have a timeline if you'll be releasing names?
We are working with the families now, making sure that they can notify all loved ones in the area and outside the area before we release any of that information. So I would anticipate that shouldn't be too long, but within the next day or so, we would hope. But as we work with them, we will get that information out as quickly as possible.
And just, can you give us a little bit, for those that are here in the community, they're kind of seeing the crime scene tape, what can they expect in the next few hours in terms of actually processing these scenes? What is that going to look like?
Yeah, they'll see a lot of activity at both of those scenes. The residence specifically is right next to the SR-24, which goes right through town, and they'll see a lot of activity at that residence. So please make sure to give them the space they need to work. Be cautious too, because a lot of times traffic may back up. We don't want any collisions to occur, but they'll try to process those scenes as quickly as possible. We want to make sure that we do everything that we can to document everything and do it as thorough as possible.
Now, yesterday, was it sheriff's office that was processing scene, or did you guys start yesterday, had nightfall, and then are picking back up this morning? What is that?
So the investigation began yesterday as they began. Initially, we wanted to try to identify this suspect and try to locate them as quickly as possible. And that really got things with that, how rapidly that transpired. They did a great job in following that. Ultimately, he's in custody now. So officers did a great job. But now with daylight will help us to document those scenes and the crime scene technicians there at those scenes. So part of it is waiting till daylight, but also the suspect identification and capture was a priority.
Considering the amount of violence that was visited on this community, how important do you think that quick apprehension was? I mean, we can't know what he might have done, allegedly, but...
Yeah, just 3 homicides within a very short time frame and a stolen vehicle. Who knows what that could have led to? Hate to even try to imagine what that would have led to.
And I don't know if it's too early to speak to this, but I mean, we're not talking about a family or men. It's 3 women who were alone, from what it sounds like. Any concerns that they were targeted for being women, potentially?
Nothing that would suggest right now that that's why he targeted them, just because it was more probably that we can see right now that the vehicle use for these him to be able to get out of the area.
Are there any other vehicles that you've located that he might have traveled into this area?
That we're still investigating to see how he got to Utah and then what his involvement here in Utah, how long that has, if he was just passing through this area specifically, if he'd been to any other parts of the state.
Hypothetically, if somebody was to come across an abandoned vehicle in Wayne County, I imagine that's something you'd want to know about?
If there's something that looks suspicious, they could report that, but we don't have anything that would suggest any other vehicles at this point.
I've seen the term serial killer thrown around in this case, and at one point there was numbers that, maybe many more victims, or up to 8. Do you qualify this with 3 victims as potentially a serial killer incident?
Hard to say as far as motive or anything like that, we have not narrowed down each type of motive. It's still early on in the investigation right now. As far as it's a very tragic situation, we don't believe he's targeted these for any specific reason other than just for convenience.
As far as your memory goes, can you recall something similar to this happening in this area recently?
To my knowledge, and again, this is something that, in coordinating with the Wayne County Sheriff's Office, they handle a lot of these investigations in this area. They would have a better knowledge of kind of what that looks like, but not to my knowledge.
Do you know if the resident was she alone?
One of the residents,
Yeah.
it appears so, yes. So, okay, perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just got from a neighbor actually just texted me, just to clarify for the folks that actually live here. They're wanting to know, so you don't yet know where the suspect's car is, Miller's car, the one that or whatever he used to get into town.
Right. We are investigating evidently some potentials on that to see. So as we get more information on specifically how he got into town and what he was doing here, we will release that.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.